I wish you a good, magical day once again. You and I continue to get acquainted with the wisdom of Siberian shamanic knowledge. Let's get straight to the point of this video. Look at this picture. It displays the shaman's vision of the world. You often ask me how the shaman sees the spirits. What are they like? How do you differentiate spirits? It's very simple. The shaman really sees spirits. Every human and every animal at birth is able to see spirits. That is a function of our eyes. But in the human world, they believe that seeing spirits means that something is wrong. Even if a child sees spirits, people around him say that it is just his fantasy or that he has a very wild imagination. There are no spirits, and there are no flying aunts and uncles. All this is nonsense. So, the child, naturally, forgets how to see spirits because nobody understands this ability. As a rule, the child stops seeing spirits by the beginning of school time. I will tell you many interesting stories today. A shaman was born in a shaman's family. He inherited the ability to see spirits, and the spirits know that the shaman sees them. As soon as the child was born, his family explained everything to him. They taught him to differentiate between spirits and describe the character of each of them. The shaman grows in this reality and is constantly in contact with spirits. Of course, when he becomes an adult, he can already manage these spirits and help people. What does this picture show? Let's start with this figure of a woman, you see, on a tree, above everybody. She is floating above the city. It is not a spirit. This is the soul of a dead person. One of the shaman's functions is that when a man prepares for death, the shaman helps his soul cross the line of death, and the soul is accompanied to the world where the soul should be after death. This is the oldest tradition. It is normal for a shaman because he is familiar with the spirits of death. I mean that for him, it is not scary. The meaning of all the rituals of passing to the world of death is lost in the modern world, and people meet their death when there is no shaman or knowledge nearby. People do not know where they will go. What is there after death? The soul is abandoned and lonely. The body has already rejected the soul. The body has died. It was buried. And the soul does not know where to go. There are many wayward souls nowadays. A person's soul has not gone to the world to which it should go. Where will it return to? Where would you return to? Where do we always return to? To our home, where we lived, where our loved ones have remained. The city you knew when you were alive. The soul comes back to this place. It can be floating right above the street. It can live in the house where it once lived and even died. By the way, in situations like these, all your loved ones will experience a strange, cold feeling. As if somebody is looking at them. As if their dead relative is floating in that corner and watching them. It really happens that sometimes something falls or moves in the house for seemingly no reason. This is the soul trying to show that it is there. It can hear the people in the house, the relatives. It likes or dislikes something they do. But it's scary for a living person. I want to tell you about one example today. My student's husband died. He was in business, and this is a very unpleasant criminal story. He ended up dead, and the wife stayed alone with 2 young children. One child was 4, the other 6. After her husband died, she came to the shaman right away and said that she was missing her husband. She was afraid that by missing him, she will keep his soul in this world. So, she asked for help to release her from her longing. She and I conducted a ritual, and she got rid of her longing for her husband. She let him go. But a year later, she returned to me and said, "You know, all year long my kids have been sick with the cold or flu. They get the flu all the time. They either have a runny nose or sore throat. They can't go to kindergarten. They get sick all the time. It's not normal. It's not normal for a kid to have such a weak immune system." And she said that one day, she entered her children's room when the kids didn't expect her to come in. She thought they were asleep, but she could hear the youngest son talking to his daddy. She said she was very scared because it had been a year since her husband died. Well, her child understood that he's dead. Something's not right. So, we went to her house, and I looked at the children. And you know what I saw? The mom, the wife, let go of her husband's soul, but the soul wouldn't leave. The children kept talking to it. The dead man's soul doesn't have a physical shell. It doesn't have this usual source of energy. And it doesn't need energy to float, to move, to live. So, do you know where the dead person's soul takes this energy from? From its relatives. And so, the child, the youngest one, talked to his father all the time. I mean, to the soul of his father, the soul that didn't pass to another world. So, the soul naturally took some of the living energy from the child through these conversations. What was the result? The child's immune system worsened, and the kids got sick all the time. What did we do, as shamans? We, of course, conducted the shamanic ritual which was supposed to be done after the death of the father. Even though the ritual was conducted a year later, the shaman saw the soul of the dead man. He called it to him. He persuaded it and accompanied it to the world where the soul should be at rest. As soon as the soul left this world and went to the underworld, the children stopped getting sick. That's it. Nobody takes the children's energy. They're healthy and happy again. Two handsome, cheerful, active boys. I'm very glad this story ended so positively because the children are already finishing school and they are absolutely healthy. If there was no opportunity for the shaman to intervene, the children could have died just because their immunity did not provide them with enough energy, and any infection could have crippled them very badly. The figure you see on the screen is the soul of a dead person, but this soul was not escorted. It stayed here, and it can really disturb our lives. It can take our energy, and it is simply suffering. It can't go to the right world. Let's see what else there is in this picture. You see a lot of people. Yes, it is the city. It is a common city situation. There's someone sitting in a cafe, someone walking down the street, but you can see a spirit above every person. There is an entity. There's another one. There are entities everywhere. Look how many of these entities there are. Those are the spirits. And I want to tell you something. The picture does not display the true reality the shaman can see. In reality, the shaman sees that there are several such spirits and monsters connected to each person. Sometimes, there are even 10 of them. An old man may come to you, and there are so many of these spirits attached to him. Sometimes, I even call my assistants and say that by working with a man like this, we can study all categories of negative spirits at once. I mean, in fact, here is a walking encyclopedia of all spirits connected to a single person. This is certainly rare, but it does happen. Let's take a look at these negative spirits again. Look, many of them sit on the people's heads. First of all, these are the spirits that control the thoughts of a person. I mean that these people already think differently. How? They have critical, negative thoughts. Everyone is dissatisfied. They might be working on a revenge plan. That is, these people's thoughts are so perverse that they think of hurting someone, doing something negative, and naturally, take energy away from another person. Their own energy is devoured by the spirit that is attached to their head. Look at the spirits that capture the internal organs with their tentacles. They took somebody's digestive system. They took that person's lungs. They took some of that person's organs. That's right, spirits are able to settle in the internal organs of a person with their tentacles or even with their whole being. They take hold of the spirit of the organ, that is, your kidney or your liver which serves you. Then, the spirit of the disease devours all the power from this organ, so the organ starts to be destroyed. You go to the hospital, and the doctor says that he cannot find the reason for it. You have all the micronutrients. All of your hormones are good. You don't understand why, but your organ is gradually dying. And you don't understand why the medication doesn't work. It's simple, it's because the spirit of the disease is sitting there. It is this negative spirit of which there are so many in our world. I'll tell you another story. Look at the beautiful children at the bottom of this picture. Here's a boy and a girl. They're running. Well, first of all, children see the spirits, yes. They've seen all these monsters, and they're obviously running away from this town square because these negative spirits would really like to take over them as well. Because children are defenseless. Because children are the most delicious delicacy. I have a story about that. I have a student who has been studying at shamanic seminars with me for more than 10 years. Being already an adult with a degree in psychology, she found a job as a psychologist at the school where her grandson studies. Well, she wants to support her grandson, to make sure that he develops normally, and that everything is good in his class where he studies. And, of course, because she's a psychologist, other children will benefit too. Then, one day, the teacher comes into the classroom, and the kids naturally make noise, run, and jump around. That's normal, they're alive. The teacher demands that they sit down, and when they finally do, the lesson begins. There's a boy sitting at the front desk. He's free, he's alive, he's a good boy. And suddenly, this boy started making faces. He started expressing something. He really looks at the teacher and makes different faces at her. The teacher is shocked. The kid's crazy. He is disrupting the lesson. He's not behaving properly. He can't sit still. The teacher grabs the kid's hand and takes him somewhere. Where? To the psychologist. So, the door to the therapist's office opens with a noise. My student is sitting at the table and writing a report. The angry teacher comes in leading the boy and says that the boy was making faces at her. He's disturbing the lesson on purpose. He must be mentally ill. She asks to examine the boy, to take him to the hospital. But my student is not just a psychologist. She's been studying at shamanic seminars for over 10 years. She sees the situation very clearly and tells the teacher to go, promising her to talk to this student. So, she sits the boy in a chair and asks what happened. In addition to being a very wise psychologist, she is also a shaman. The children at school know that she is a special person and talk to her sincerely. They have nothing to hide. In front of a person who studied shamanism, the boy says that the teacher brought her monsters with her to the classroom. It turns out that the teacher is in the process of divorce with her alcoholic husband. And what is divorce? It's scandals, conflicts. Her husband's frazzled nerves. And after another scandal, some of her husband's negative spirits jumped onto the teacher, and she had a spirit attached to her head in class. The monster that devoured the teacher and was still hungry. Can you imagine? And the child sees these spirits. The boy sits at the front desk and sees the teacher come in with a hissing spirit connected to her head, looking at all the children and choosing who to jump onto. And you know what this child did? He's a little shaman. He's a real talent. He started making faces, but not at the teacher. He was making faces at this spirit to scare it away, so the spirit wouldn't jump on defenseless kids. Can you imagine? Of course the teacher was shocked. The kid was sitting at the front desk, making faces. How could she understand that? There was no way she could. And it's a lucky that there's a psychologist at this school with a shaman's education who understands these things. What did the psychologist do? She told the student it was okay and calmed him down. Yes, these are the spirits. She invited the boy to the seminar with her and told him she'll introduce him to shamans. They'll teach him. They'll develop his abilities. She said, you'll grow up to be a real shaman. Well, what did the psychologist do next? She started working with the teacher. She asked her about her problem. Difficult divorce. She explained to the teacher what was going on. Your nerves are exhausted, and you're being guided by negative energy. She had to say the word energy, not spirit, of course. So, the teacher received help. And you know what the first help she received was? My student did it. My student gave the teacher her amulet, the amulet I gave her which served her for 10 years. The teacher asked why she needed this stone. What will I do with it? The psychologist advised the teacher to simply hold it in her hand. Hold it in your hand when you go home today, when your husband starts another scandal. The teacher asked how a stone could help. Maybe she should hit her husband with the stone. She was holding the stone in her pocket because she was really ready to hit her husband. Well, the stone fits in the palm of her hand, and remember, this is a serious tool. She came home and found her husband drunk. He started a scandal. She was holding the stone in her hand and praying. She was praying they would not start fighting the next moment. She was holding the stone and felt as if something entered her arm. Yes, the spirit woke up and gave her strength. That second, her drunk husband stopped, sat down, and fell asleep. The conflict, thank God, did not grow bigger. By the way, after that, the teacher believed in the power of this stone very much. She believed in the spirit that helped her, and I know she still has it with her. I'm glad about it. That's the story. Now, let's go back to the picture. Look at these two great kids. They're really free. There's no monster connected to them yet. There's no negative spirit. Do you know why these kids don't have monsters attached to them? Because they're wearing shaman amulets, under their clothes, under their jackets as they're in the middle of this marketplace. These are cafes and pubs around, and in these places, there are many people who have a lot of negative spirits. The kids are clean because they have protective amulets. When you come to the seminar, do not forget to bring pictures of your children, please, as well as pictures of small kids and grown-ups who already have their own children. Bring pictures of your grandchildren. You can come with a picture to the shaman. Of course, the shaman will ask you about the age of your child, about their activities, their name. Then, among all amulets the shaman brought for this purpose, he will pick the amulet that will be the perfect fit for your child. After that, the miracle happens. Of course, you'll make a donation for that amulet. It's natural. It's an energy exchange. Only then will the shaman take the photo. He will hold the amulet, communicate with the spirit of the amulet and say, "Now, you have to protect this child in certain situations. Meet your master, and you will be given the amulet to give to your child or to an adult. Let them wear it either in their pocket or around their neck. It could also be worn as a bracelet. The most important thing is that this amulet will protect your child in situations where there will be monsters around who want to latch onto them. This is important especially if it's a small child or if it's your grandchildren. We must protect our loved ones right away. Look at this picture again. Yes, it is true, the shaman can see the world. Yes, the shaman understands these spirits and what they want, the kinds of energy they consume, and what this or that negative entity will lead to, which disease. Yes, the shaman has studied these things his whole life. This is a whole encyclopedia of knowledge. Shamanism is full of vast, wise, and ancient knowledge. A shaman is also a doctor who knows how to cure. From viruses, from bacteria, from monsters, from spirits. It is exactly like this. I don't even have to ask you if you believe in spirits because the presence of spirits has been proven by scientists nowadays. I'm only saying that the time has come to evaluate the work of a doctor shaman in this century. The shaman who is able to free you from these entities. Please, attend the seminars to learn these things. You must learn this just like we learn how to drive a car because we're going to use it in the future. Just like we learn how to write or work on a computer. Because we're going to use this knowledge for the rest of our lives. Come because this is knowledge without which it's actually not safe to live anymore in our time. Me and my team, we always come with a whole group of shamans to teach you everything we know, so that your lineage, your children, and your family will be healthy, protected, and really happy.